Philosopher Stoneground with us tonight. My name is Tim. I'm the chief philosopher and nut alchemist of the Philosopher Stoneground. We make sprouted almond butter. And this is Jesse, my best friend and business partner. Sprouting is the traditional way of preparing almonds by germinating them in salt water before dehydrating them at a low temperature. This makes the almonds sweeter, more digestible, and more nutritious. We then employ the traditional low-speed, low-temperature process of stone grinding to preserve enzymes, nutrients, and vitality. Sprouting almonds started out of an urge to take control of my personal food supply and begin making more of my own food for health, sustainability, and financial reasons. I also wanted to reconnect myself with some of the processes that we engaged in as a species for millennia before the industrial age. I made my first batch of sprouted almond butter last November and fell in love with it, refining the recipe and process over the course of several months. On April 17th of this year, I received what I describe as a download from the universe, in which I saw clearly that it is my life's work to start a food product company to educate people about sprouted food and serve as a wedge for changing human consciousness around food. The company would test my hypothesis that consumerism can make the world a better place, rather than the stories we're used to telling and hearing. I believe that we can harness the power of the market to nourish all of life. I believe that dollars can become seeds, trees, food, health, love, and life. The business was launched on Earth Day, out of my home kitchen, thanks to the new California Homemade Food Act. Thanks, Christina. I quickly outgrew the confines of my home kitchen and attracted the committed help of Jesse. We've been producing out of the back of our favorite slow food restaurant in Davis since the end of June. The company is currently only run by us, plus the occasional help of our close friends. With the newest interest of our friend Derek, we are now exploring how to create a worker-owned cooperative,
That awesome guy on the right.
also known as B-Love, to share the mushrooming tasks of our rapidly expanding new enterprise. Our mission is intelligent nourishment, spreading consciousness and nourishing all life through delicious food designed for human consumption. Our mission shows up specifically in the various aspirations of our company. Education. Educating people about the benefits of sprouting by providing them with the purest, most intelligently produced food available. Research. Funding research on the nutritional benefits and best methods of sprouting. Activism, changing the way food is grown, made, and distributed to favor localized organic food systems, changing the way law and commerce work to favor these systems. One of our most ambitious goals is to change the way almond agriculture works. California grows 85% of the world's almonds. Unfortunately, the way the vast majority of this crop is produced is damaging to the health of the trees, bees, humans, and ecosystems involved. We are seeking to establish Almondia, an ecological food forest, with the profits of our company. This perennial polyculture orchard will support the thriving of life and its support systems by going beyond the monoculture mindset to a paradigm of fractal flourishing. Fractal flourishing is our term for a state where everything from the quantum to the cosmic level flourishes. Almondia will grow the nuts to supply our food product. The profits from the food company will nourish both the land and the company, which will eventually enable us to sprout more almondias. Land, feeding people, feeding company, feeding land. In this way, we will create self-seeding systems of abundance that nourish life at every level, in every step of the production and consumption processes. Right now, we are featured in 9 grocery stores, soon to be 12, 2 farmers markets, GoodEggs.com, a juice bar, and a restaurant. We launched in Freestone Hearth 2 weeks ago, where we have already delivered over 150 pounds of our product. We're exploring a community-supported almond butter project in Davis with pedal-powered bike delivery. In the past few months, we participated in 5 large regional events where we have gained a national following, hungry for our product. We are aiming to launch our online mail order system by the end of November to meet that demand. We just launched on Credibles, thanks Sarah. And we're excited to attract the funding we need to continue fueling our rapid growth. Our most immediate material need is to buy 2 commercial dehydrators to expand our production. We need to keep up with the intense demand that we've been experiencing. We also need jarring and labeling machines to free up our labor to allow us to focus on administrative and strategic activities. Our other needs are less tangible, but possibly more important. We are 26 and 27-year-old first-time entrepreneurs. Our backgrounds are as activists, writers, and healers. We find ourselves trying to navigate the labyrinthine world of business to help us achieve our ambitious goals. We need the time, sweat, knowledge, and advice of others who will support us in manifesting our vision. Please help us build our contribution to a vibrant bioregional economy in any way that your talents, resources, and connections allow. We are grateful to Slow Money for providing so many awesome events to help us learn and navigate the world of business and finance. We've benefited immensely from the incredible connections with both individuals and producers and retailers that have immensely supported us in our journey so far. Since the download, we have experienced a chain of synchronicities that have supported our company coming into a thriving existence. This has not come without extreme challenges. Along the way, we kept as our mantra the insight we received early on that being an entrepreneur is ultimately about testing your commitment to making something happen. We have been experiencing the truth of the beautiful William Hutchison Murray quote: "Until one is committed, there is hesitancy, the chance to draw back. Concerning all acts of initiative and creation, there is one elementary truth, the ignorance of which kills countless ideas and splendid plans. That the moment one definitely commits oneself, then providence moves too. All sorts of things occur to help one that would never have otherwise occurred. A whole stream of events issues from the decision, raising in one's favor all manner of unforeseen incidents and meetings and material assistance, which no man could have dreamed would have come his way. Whatever you can do, or dream you can do, begin it. Boldness has genius, power, and magic in it."
Hoping to be able to take advantage of some of these new rules and be able to have access to capital a little bit more easily. So we've got 3 great perspectives to be able to share with you. Arno, you want to come up and kick it off?
Thank you, Jill. Who was at our last meeting last month at Foods in Emeryville? Okay, our main topic was actually also related to the new SEC rules around public solicitation. We had some very knowledgeable attorneys informing us, and they told us, and then the real crowdfunding rules, they will come out sometime soon. And then after our meeting, it took like 36 hours later, the rules came out. So, but we're still very timely. As far as I know, like the partner with the Impact Hub is probably the first like public community discussion about what do the new crowdfunding rules mean. This is and what do they mean for local investing? How and if will it change in the future? That's the topic of today's discussion. And just to put this in a little bit of a context, as I was listening to Tim and Jesse, as you guys know, or some of you guys know, I used to work at a bank, and we had 1 million households, consumer households, and 50 small businesses. And these were basically 2 different departments, right? They were kept apart, they wouldn't like invest in each other. And we were only scratching the surface in terms of the small businesses. A business like Philosopher's Stone Ground would not exist in the world of bank financing because they would have laughed them out of the door. At Philosopher's probably already, and the better ones of the bank underwrite the war and said, "Sorry, can't help you, but leave the almond butter here," right? And they do have good taste. So now we're looking at a whole different world. Can actually community take over in terms of investing? And our crowdfunding theme for today, I just want to phrase a little bit. It's not about the crowdfunding that we already know from the Kickstarter, Kiva, Indiegogo world where you make donations or 0% loans. We're talking about the crowdfunding that is not considered as investing, where basically we can promise interest and it's considered an alternative to earning interest. For example, Credibles is also a crowdfunding platform, but we're not promising interest in terms of money, it's just interest in edible credits, and Jenny was actually our legal advisor in structuring that the right way. We didn't have to wait for the Jobs Act. Now the Jobs Act is here, and it's really nice to have Jenny here, and so I want to bring Jenny, David, and Tim up to the front, if you can. The beauty of the participation, the composition of the panel is, and Jenny will start. Jenny has been very instrumental, just even like getting the idea of crowdfunding, capital formation, community capital out there, involved in the early discussions of getting crowdfunding somewhere into the law space. So she has been in it from the beginning. That it becomes active, people say there are a lot of new platforms coming along that will play a role in it. And who has heard of a Tiny Cat Loans before today? See, two people, and this is actually an interesting thing. So we actually may see more platforms that nobody has heard about. And we don't know where Tiny Cat Loans will be in a year from now, but actually it's an interesting perspective that there will be new players in the game. And Tim is representing Impact Hub, where like tons of new startups in the social impact space are coming up, and they probably would have hoped if that was available, what we now will be talking about. So the question that I want to guys think about and also talk to is, A, will crowdfunding lead to a democratization of investing? Will we see a new class of investors that weren't investors in the traditional sense? Will they become impact forming us? And maybe a little bit later we can also say, what will it actually do to the traditional crowdfunding? What happens actually to the people who are trying to be almighty as angels in the investing world? So these are questions we hope we can address today. So let's start out with Jenny, and Jenny will give us first also information on what is actually in it so that we know what we can discuss today. Thank you.
Thank you. It's good to see a lot of friendly faces. Some of you have heard me talk before, but we do have an exciting new development. The new rules did just come out, and it's getting to be a more complicated space. So I created this cheat sheet that talks about, basically there are 4 ways that you can currently raise money from the public. So these are ways that you can go out and talk in a group like this and say, hey, I'm raising money for my business, or maybe it's not a business, maybe it's a nonprofit, maybe it's some kind of a campaign that you're working on, or a project, or something you're building, but and you can accept investors of all kinds, not just wealthy accredited investors. So there's basically 4 ways legally to do this. One of them has not gone into effect yet, and that is the new crowdfunding law. The rules have come out, but they're just draft rules now, so we don't have final rules yet. And then even once we have final rules, you still won't be able to quite use it because you must go through an intermediary. You will not be able to, when I said you can say in front of a room like this, I'm raising money, the only thing you'll be able to say if you use this new rule is, I'm raising money under the new crowdfunding rule, please see the intermediary's website. You will not be able to do any other communication about what you're offering. So I'll just quickly go through this chart. And I don't have a lot of time, so I'm going to try to hurry, but the 4 ways are: 1, a direct public offering, which if you've ever heard me speak before, you know that's something that I'm very excited about. It's actually a way that's legal now that allows you to raise money from the public, from both wealthy and non-wealthy investors, do public advertising, etc. So that we've been doing a bunch of those already. If you've heard of People's Community Market or Farm Fresh to You, those are some businesses we've worked with to do this. Real Pickles is another one. The Jobs Act funding exemption, which is the one where the rules just came out and it's not yet in effect, but it should be soon. Rule 506C, it sounds like you talked about that at your last meeting, This is a new thing that was also part of the Jobs Act. This was Title II of the Jobs Act. And this is now in effect, and if you're raising money only from wealthy investors, and you're going to do the due diligence to make sure that all your investors are wealthy, i.e. accredited. I assume a lot of people know what that means, but if you don't, you can ask me later. So if you're only raising money from accredited investors, you can do public advertising, but there is a certain filing you have to do. And then the fourth way, of course, is the way that we've known for a while, which is the crowdfunding platforms like Credibles and Indiegogo. So I'm going to just go through these really quick. So the top line, it's all yeses. Yes, public solicitation and advertising is allowed. That's kind of the point of this chart. These are the 4 ways where you can do public solicitation. And the maximum you can raise. With a direct public offering, it depends on the type of offering you're doing. Sometimes there may be no maximum, sometimes you may have a maximum of $1 million. Under the Jobs Act, you will only be able to raise up to $1 million. Under Rule 506C and of course donation-based crowdfunding, there's no maximum. Maximum per investor. Using a direct public offering, there's usually no maximum per investor, although in California, oftentimes they will impose a maximum for people who don't make above, I think it's like $50,000 per year or $150,000 in net worth. It kind of varies a bit. So people who don't meet those minimum requirements sometimes can't put in more than $2,500, but everyone can invest. And of course, under the last 2, there's no maximum per investor. Are they currently available? All of these are currently available except for this new Jobs Act crowdfunding thing, which will go into effect probably fairly soon. What can you offer? You can offer any type of security. So a lot of people will say equity crowdfunding. I don't like to call it equity crowdfunding because you don't have to offer equity. You could offer debt. You could offer really creative types of securities like royalty agreements, revenue-based financing. So under all of these, except donation-based crowdfunding, you can probably offer anything you want. We're not certain about that with the new law, the new Jobs Act crowdfunding exemption, because that will really depend on what the intermediaries allow you to offer. So under the law, you can offer anything, but it might be that the intermediaries will say, oh, you can only offer equity through our website. Is it open to unaccredited investors? Both direct public offerings and offerings under the new crowdfunding exemption are open to everybody. Do you need to have audited or reviewed financials? And sometimes people don't realize how expensive it is to get audited or reviewed financials, so this is kind of an important thing. With a direct public offering, you usually don't. In California, they generally will not require it. In other states, they might. Direct public offerings are state by state. So in California, I have yet to see them require audited or reviewed financials. Under the new crowdfunding exemption, you will be required to have audited or reviewed financials depending on how much you're raising. If you're raising over $100,000, you'll have to have reviewed. Over $500,000, you'll have to have audited. And then the other 2, no. Can you talk directly to investors? With all of them except under the new crowdfunding exemption, you can. But like I said, under the new crowdfunding exemption, you actually will have to put a gag on your mouth and not talk to any investors about your offering other than to tell them about the intermediary website where your offering is listed. Are you required to use a web-based portal? The only one where you are required to use a web-based portal is under this new law, the new crowdfunding exemption. So like even with donation-based crowdfunding, most people do use a portal, but you don't have to. You could just stand right here and say, hey, donate to my business. Let's see. Are there ongoing reporting requirements? This is a big concern with the new Jobs Act crowdfunding regulations. You will be required to do ongoing reporting to the SEC for the rest of the life of your business. If you ever use the new exemption, from then on till the end of time, you will have to do ongoing reporting. Another thing that's a negative about the new law is you're required to allow investors to pull out at the last minute. So you could get to, you could have a maximum that or a target that you're trying to raise, and people could be, pledging to invest right up until 48 hours before the last day for people, or the last moment for people to commit. People can pull out. So that's a real concern. And then I just talk at the bottom about which law applies to this. So direct public offerings, generally speaking, you're going to find an exemption from the federal law, and you're going to register in the states you want to offer, where you want to be able to accept investors. And then with the new crowdfunding exemption, the big advantage of it is that you don't have to do state-by-state registration. The states are actually not allowed to require you to do registration, although they might, a couple of states might have the right to ask you for a simple notice filing. So that's the big advantage, but as you can see, that's somewhat possibly outweighed by some of the disadvantages. So, what else did I want to say about that? So I guess I just want to say that we do currently have a bunch of direct public offerings that are currently open and in the works. So if you want to see some examples of what they look like, what the prospectuses look like, what the different kinds of securities are that they're offering, you can go to our website, cuttingedgex.com, and that's a fairly new listing site where we actually list currently open direct public offerings. And we're not acting as an intermediary the way people will under the new Jobs Act. All we're doing is gathering information. So if you go to the website and you say, oh, I'm interested in People's Community Market, and you click on their, the picture of People's Community Market, it'll take you directly to their website. So we're not an intermediary, we're not taking a percentage of what they raise, we're just trying to gather data about, what's being currently offered. So that's a good way to kind of see some examples. We hope to add more soon. If you know anyone who's doing a direct public offering who might want to be listed there, we'd be happy to hear about that. It's free right now. Yeah, question?
Yeah, hey, first of all, thank you for all your work with Cutting Edge Capital. And I know that you all can do advocacy or other types of work behind the scenes or make that happen and make big changes. What are some of your other concerns with the draft rules that you'd like to see changed?
Well, so I want to say, I think the SEC did a really good job on the draft rules. I did go ahead and read the 500 and however many pages. I didn't read every word. I skimmed some parts, but I think the problem was really, yes, I admit it, was really, the problem was the law itself. And the history of the law is really interesting. We don't have time to go into it today, but sustainability.
Tiny Hat Loans, and we are. So if you want to reach out to your customers in Nevada, you would have to go through the application process with Nevada as well, and submit filing fees and go through the application process, which can take a number of months in some cases. We're targeting Jobs Act mainly to reduce that amount of overhead and not that paperwork. We're trying to make it a very streamlined process. We're trying to make it as cheap and efficient as we possibly can. And see if we can't use that to drive the costs down and open the door to even more businesses.
Two quick questions. One, can anyone sign up to your site? And two, as a financial intermediary, you're required to do a certain amount of financial due diligence.
As far as due diligence goes, actually it's really interesting. We are not allowed to pick and choose which companies offer securities on our site. We're not allowed to cherry pick, we're not allowed to recommend, and we think these guys are really great and better than these other folks. We are allowed to set a certain standard as long as everybody is held to that same standard. For example, we're using SBA loan requirements. We're saying you have to have been in business for a certain amount of time. You have to show a profit at some point so that you can actually pay back the loan. But past that, if you meet that bar, then you have to learn on our site. And as far as investors, literally anybody can invest.
So as a platform, do you get into the percentage of the raise, the servicing of the loan, how would that work?
We would be compensated as a percentage of the raise. The actual compensation structure and what we can charge for is still being hammered out with FINRA. But it looks like we'll be able to charge a small percentage of the raise. We're shooting for 6%. Somebody else will be doing the drive those costs down to zero as much as we possibly can. And a lot of that is trying to align our interests with the businesses that are raising money. You know, we don't want to continue to make money out of them. We only want to make money when they receive money. So.
Two questions. First is, the SBA sort of baseline here, do you think that's a choice, or could someone else take a different set of rules and could they make loans to unprofitable companies?
Absolutely. Other platforms could make different choices. We're setting that particular standard because we want to make sure that these loans succeed. We want to make sure that people don't default. And you know, for a small business, a small amount of money, you know, $15,000 to $20,000 can be really transformative and can do great things. But also being on the hook for $15,000 to $20,000 can be pretty bad if you're not in the position where you can actually service that loan. So we're trying to make sure that this is a win-win scenario for everybody.
And the second question is, what happens at exit? So there are only reporting requirements for this entity. I would imagine that anyone who invests in this company will be sold for more than they paid for them. And is that, are there any restrictions about the exit of the company, or do they can sell it? Reporting requirements would be after the company is sold.
After the company is sold, I think a lot of that would depend on the exit. And a lot of that would be surrounding equity investments if you're doing a crowdfunding equity offering. We haven't really dug too deep into that because we're not particularly interested in equity offerings.
Well, but what about companies that you loan money to and then bought? Are there any complications around that? Basically, what I'm really asking is, by going for a round of funding, so by sourcing capital for crowdfunding, does that inhibit a company's ability to exit, other than the fact that they're funding as a public?
Our initial reading is no, because any obligations, you know, will be to the initial company. If they're acquired by a different entity, then that other entity would have different rules. But that's actually a really great question that we should pose to the regulators.
Related to that, if you had an equity instrument, equity funding company, that did a minimum buyout, you get out of the requirement of the public.
I think, again, our interpretation would be yes. So going private, or, you know, if Dell is no longer publicly traded, then they don't need to report to financials anymore. So I think the standard reporting requirements for the IPO are a pretty good match for the way that the SEC is thinking about these things.
Thanks. So I'm going to jump in really quick since we're running a little bit longer on time. I think what we're going to do is we're going to continue, of course, on with Tim, and we'll probably won't have time to do our breakouts, which we talked about. So at the end of this, we'll have more time, maybe another 5 or so minutes for some additional questions, and then we'll hope that a few of you can stay. I want to be mindful and respectful of everyone's time and our finish time at 8 o'clock. So hopefully these guys will be around for a little bit, and also Tim and Jesse will be around after 8 o'clock. So this is a great time after Tim's to continue asking questions. I just want to tell people we won't have time to do the breakout, unfortunately. All right, Tim, all yours.
Thank you. Hey, everybody. So I usually start with, you know, how many people have actually visited or know about the Impact Hub, but I look around this room and I've actually, over the last 4 years, seen more than half of this room, so I think that the majority of you are quite familiar, but I'll run through a quick kind of history of it, and then kind of get into, I think, why I'm up here with these guys. So the Hub is a global community of social entrepreneurs, impact investors, consultants that want to see by around 60 next year. It's all